So the cloud, there we go. Okay, so we're recording right now. So now yesterday you guys went over how to build a basic framework. So if you join a company and they said, hey, we don't have anything, go ahead and start automating, and you build this, right? It's as basic as is it can be at this point. And you build this and you wrote some test. And then maybe 2 weeks later, you just go to your boss and say, hey, can I show you something? Can I show you? I mean, I'm working on the automation. I just want to show you a little bit. And then you show him a demo. You just go and run it, and he looks at it. He's definitely going to say, wow, that's great progress, right? This is not like something like, oh, wow, what is this? This is so basic. Nobody is going to criticize you. They're going to say, wow, that is great progress. Now you just got to improve it. Now you just got to make it better. You just got to do this, you just got to do that, right? So that's how they will react to it. They're going to say, okay, that's awesome. So what we need to do, we need to make it better. Let's make it work in Firefox too. You know what? Let's make it CI/CD friendly. Or let's make it more page object model, because we want to make sure that our code is maintainable. So they're going to say it's something like that. So you join a company and you realize all of your coworker, they don't know how to write automation. And that is possible. That is very much possible, because there are people that got on the job 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. At that time, maybe they did light programming using Visual Basic and Q2P, and they just they're scared of Selenium, and they never actually tried Selenium, right? Or they never put that effort that you're putting right now to learn Selenium. So now you join the company and you say, hey, I'm going to bring something new to the table. What I will do, I will start working on a small framework, start writing some tests. If you guys like it, then we can move forward with it. So you just create this as a demo, and they like it, and now they want to move forward. And guess who's in charge, right? Then you'll be in charge of the whole project, meaning you're the one who's going to be in charge of migration, taking the existing test cases and moving it to the new framework. And there is really good reason why you want to make that migration, is because Q2P, Test Complete, and other tools, and I'm talking about older tools that pretty much doesn't help the company as much as Selenium or newer tools like Cypress, is that has licensing fee per license 5,000 plus. And imagine you have 25, QA guys, then that's quickly adds up to a lot of money. And this is completely free and is flexible, right? Um, so that is one of the reason. So just take everything very seriously. When you learn something, trust me, it will it will work. It will be something that you can use in real world. You can literally take this framework and you can go to work, right? And you can just say, look, I'm going to build top of this. Framework doesn't happen in the same day. You cannot just go to a company and say, look, I built the whole thing in one day. And that's not how it works. So as broken as this, or as basic as this, you can start from there, and you can just build and build and build and make it better and better and better, meaning you're adding more and more capabilities to your framework. So today what we're going to do is that we're going to be creating real test cases. Yesterday, it was just getting down there. We learned few things about Selenium, that get is a method that allows us to go to a URL. Then we learned about how to put assertion. Assertion is the essential component of a test case. You cannot call that a test case if you do not have assertion. So just keep that in mind, memorize it. Just assertion is 110% needed in a test case. Otherwise, your test is not a test. You know, so when you are doing a test and somebody is telling you, okay, I'm expecting you to do this, and then you do something else, then you fail, right? But if they give you no expectation in terms of test, and they said just do whatever you want, is that even a test? Because you can just do literally anything and they'll say, okay, fine. That is not a test, right? So same thing, when you write a test case, there are a few things that you need to keep in mind, is that it needs to have his steps, some actions, right? Some user action that you're simulating, and then it needs to have assertion. Now, when you did manual test cases, right? And if you guys really understood what manual test cases is, some of you guys must have watched those videos. Some of you guys, did the class live. If you really understood how to write test cases or how to have the test scenario, then this is going to be a bit more understanding for you today. The number one reason why I stretch a little bit more on the test cases or manual side is because you just simply cannot be a good automation tester if you are not a good manual tester, right? If your eyes is not for manual things, meaning you're the person who doesn't really pay attention to details and do not really use their critical thinking, then being an automation tester, you're just not going to be as effective as somebody who is. The reason is that you first have to come up with the test cases. You first have to come up with writing the test cases. Then you can translate that into automation. Okay. When you translate that into automation, it works differently than how you would write it manually on an Excel sheet. We're gonna basically explore that today, and so because of that, this is the insurance website we're gonna be automating today, right? This is a demo website. This is a software that is being pretty much, they're advertising this software for companies that do not have their own softwares, right? Um, so pretty much somebody as a company, if they buy this software or if they buy this license, what's going to happen is that their logo will replace this, their information will replace this, and then this becomes the company's at that point company's website. So we'll take advantage of this demo website because we don't want to go into like Geico and start creating, requests or start creating code requests. And now we have 20 code requests, all of, from all of us, right? It's not a good thing. So what I will do, I'll go ahead and click on auto. And the other reason why I chose this insurance website is because we want to learn a domain when we are doing this testing. So insurance domain is different, right? Insurance domain, you got personal and you got business. So personal, and we call this commercial. So personal line includes anything that related to personal, auto, condo, homeowner, and all of that, right? So if you do work on an insurance domain, and that's something that is on your resume, the first thing anybody will ask you, were you working on personal or commercial? And you're going to say, oh, I was working on the personal line. So even if it's like a code for auto insurance, you still work on personal. If you work on business, then you better know how, hearts, dollar, those car rental works, right? Because they are the one commercials. They are the one who gets commercial insurance for their vehicles. And then not only vehicles, I'm talking about apartment building, right? I'm talking about somebody who actually owns like 50 units. I'm talking about contractor who needs a insurance. I'm talking about, you know, a jewelry insurance for somebody who have a store, a restaurant owners. So this is all about commercial side. Okay. So to learn a little bit about domain as well, that will help. So now typically in a company, they don't just have you work on everything. Okay. So every single item here will be a new team. It will be a different team. Okay. Your team for today is auto. Okay. When you visit auto, and it is car insurance right here, then you have this auto insurance code request, right? When you click on it, it then asks you for your name, email, phone number, 5-digit code. And then if you know any agent. So in this case, our agent is John Doe. So you can choose or you don't have to choose, right? This is optional. And then zip code. Continue. Okay, so then I continue and it takes me to the application information. And this is where I fill out more information and I proceed, right? So hopefully step 1 to 4 all the way. Once I finish, I should be able to get a code saying you have requested a 6 months premium or 6 months code. And so here it is, your monthly payment is this much, right? So anybody who has a car insurance would know what I'm talking about. Now, the beginning to end, If I write a test case that touches all the way from the first page to all the way to the end, what kind of test scenario that is, or what kind of test case that is? Anybody want to answer that? So if I start from all the way from the beginning to go all the way to the end, I want to see the code. I want to see what was the outcome after entering all this information. That is one test case, or that is one test scenario, let's say. What kind of test scenario or test case that is? Anybody want to try before I go ahead and reveal the answer?
Is it positive?
Well, I didn't mention about the test data. I'm just
Oh,
saying, yeah. So test data is not significant here because the reason I'm saying it could be negative, positive, doesn't really matter. So
I think Joel page object model.
page object model is relevant to what? To your framework. You're isolating code. You're taking code that are reusable, and or you're taking code blocks and give them a nice method name, right? And then be able to use. That is not relevant to the test because I'm just talking about in terms of
Joel by I think it's the end-to-end test.
exactly. So who said that by this?
Bajit, yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if that's something that you guys learned from Shantabai, but that is called end-to-end testing, right? And sometime I will explain
Joel, is it called functional testing also?
functional testing, yes, and also end-to-end testing because you're checking functionalities. That is, functional testing by default, but then um, specifically that is end-to-end testing because you're just trying to see what really happens if you take somebody's information, go all the way through and see if they can qualify for insurance or 6 months insurance premium. Okay. Okay, so you guys learned something new, right? End to end. You know what end to end means. So let me just give you guys a proper definition here. Okay, end to end is a technique that tests the entire software product from beginning to end to ensure the application flow behaves as expected. So that is very well put, right? That is very well organized way to say this is because you want to see the entire flow from the very beginning to the end. If there's any interruptions, if there's any error, if there's any sort of blockers, right? You want to find anything and everything that blocks that entire flow. Because if you don't, think about this way, you click on it and you first test this page, okay, and you're fine. Then you go to the next page and you test that page and you're fine. And you're doing page by page testing. You're not really going through the entire, you know, um, end-to-end case or test case. Then what's going to happen is maybe because if you go through the sequential one page after another page and then all the way you follow the end-to-end process, then at the end it doesn't work because maybe it was never tested, right? So end-to-end flow is very important. End-to-end flow is true for business rules. You guys heard of business rules or business um okay, let me just write it somewhere. Trying to let me go ahead and find. Okay, where did my there you go. Okay, so what is business rules? Anybody wants to answer that? So if you're testing business rules, then you will be doing the end-to-end flow most likely, right? Business rule is something like, okay, you know what? If somebody lives in this zip code, for example, we want to make sure they get 10% more on there because this zip code has more accidents, right? Auto accident happens more in this zip code. Like, and who am I to make this decision, right? In a company, I will be a data scientist. If I am making the decision, that means I'm a data scientist. I did my research and I found out that throughout the whole United States, zip code 11102 has, percentage of accidents because there is a park or there is a public attraction around. And then I go ahead and speak to the CEO or even my boss and say, hey, can we raise that to 10%? Because this is where we have more accidents, right? This is where we're losing more money. So now this 10% adding to it, developers take that as a user story, okay? And they go ahead and edit, right? And that is actually a business rule because you're saying that, okay, anybody from this zip code gets 10% more, okay? Now, all you have to do, so how do you test this scenario? Who can test this scenario? Tell me. What is one way to test this scenario if you have 10% more for this zip code?
User?
What would you do to test this scenario? How would you know that it's 10% more and not 10% more? You got to do negative and positive, right? First, you want to see that it's 10% more, and then you want to see that everybody else in the other places, they don't have 10%. So that's a lot of test cases, but let's keep it to two, negative and positive. How would you test that I am from this zip code and I am able to see the 10%?
First, we will do the positive one. Then we will do it like beyond the border, like beyond the zip code. So that's I think the negative test, right?
Okay. So the first you wanna but let's say you're automating, right? How would you know that is actually 10%? What, give me the entire flow, right? So from beginning to end. So first you would what? Enter all information, info for zip code other than 1102 or 1102. Right? And then how would you compare? What is your expected result here?
We'll put like 10%, above 10% and below 10%.
No, but I'm not, 10% is not coming from us. 10% is coming from the system. The engine, this software has an engine to generate that number, right?
Yeah.
It generates the number based on different criteria. One of the criteria is to add 10% if somebody is from zip code 11102.
We'll be using the loops, I guess, right?
What do you mean loops? We're not even talking about code here,
Oh, sorry.
I'm not even saying Java this or Java that, right? All I'm trying to do is make you guys think a little bit harder to tell me what ways can you validate that this can apply to 10%, that 10% can apply to this zip code. What is the way?
If or else.
No, but I'm not asking you to write code. All I'm asking you to do, give me like a step, just like a human, read it to me and you're fine.
Joel, I think we put this code and when we go to the next step, show the result, expected versus.
Show results. So this once the result comes, this becomes what, expected or actual. This result for the person 1102, it is a expected or actual.
From this expected.
How is this expected? You're testing from somebody from this zip code, right? We don't know if that 10% is even correct, right? Because it's coming from the system. So this will be an actual result.
Okay.
Okay. And then, and obviously we're doing the opposite way. Then you want to do another same script, right? You want to then go to another person. You want to enter another person information, the same exact person you want to enter, but then you want to do very nearby zip code. For example, 11101. You want to then go ahead and show the result. And this becomes pretty much, I would say, this is also an actual result, right? Because it's coming from the system. Then what you do is that you take this and you take this, right? You minus this amount from this. What does that leaves with? So what is the math you're going to be doing here? So let's say for this guy is actual result for, I'm just going to give it a nice name. 02 11101, right? So then you're gonna say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna take that, and then minus that, right? So that is what? That is giving you, that's supposed to give you expected result, right?
Yes.
Expected result should be equal to, like now at this point, we're expecting this number should be 10% only, right?
Yes.
So then what do you want to do? You want to find what is the 10% of this, right? So you do your math, find the 10% of this, and then you want to say expected result is equal to the 10% of this, right? So you got to do a little bit more math in here, right?
Yes.
Make anybody here that doesn't make sense, let me know. Anybody here? To everybody it makes sense. So
Can you please explain again?
okay. So what I'm trying to say is that, let's say, okay, all right. So I'm saying that somebody who is from a zip code 0011102, it's supposed to get 10% more. They're supposed to pay 10% more, okay? That somebody is not. So then what I did is to validate my theory or validate this test case, I am also using another zip code that is very nearby, close by, but it should not have that 10%. First, I run my script. I enter all the information for the first user. And it's the same exact user, just the zip code is different, right? So same credit score, same accident records and everything. And the zip code is different. So now for this zip code, I got, let's say the 6 months of premium is 500, right? Just to make sure, okay? And let's see. Real quick. So now 10% of 500 is what? Is 50 bucks, right? So for this guy, because it's 10% less, I got 450, okay? Then what you did is you, because this guy is not from that zip code, he got $450 less, meaning 10% less, okay? Then what you did, you said, okay, my expected result is equal to actual from this zip code and actual from that zip code minus, right? So what is the expected result becomes at this point? 50, correct? $50, right? Okay.
Yes.
Now you're saying, okay, if that is 50, I want to be able to now take the actual, this 500, you want to take to make sure that that 500 is pretty much, you're saying 50 is 10% or not. Now 50 that you got difference, that's already 50% validation there, right? So now you want to be able to calculate that what is your, how do you actually do this? How do I say? How do you get 50% off? 1 second, sorry, I'm just getting too many texts. So what is the calculation to find the 10% of 500? Somebody want to give me? Who knows that? So it'll be like something like this, right? 0.01 times
Media hora voy a hacer después de las 2:30, lo voy a llevar media
500,
hora.
right? Sorry. Times 500, right? Is that correct, guys? Am I doing the correct math? It's equal to, should be like 50, right? So now what you want to do, you want to compare. You want to say expected result And that is your actual result at this, but that is the real actual result, right? So I'm just gonna leave actual result like this. So you want to then tell your Java and say expect result should be equal to actual result, right? That should be equal to true. Okay. Now, who can tell me the difference between 1 equal versus 2 equal? Anybody here? Because you guys did code.
Yes. Is equal, I think equal to like variable equal to value, and double equal to like same thing other two side.
So you're saying double equal is same as single equal?
No. Is single equal like variable equal to value, and
Okay.
double equal like two side is same. Like accepted result and actual result is same.
You're saying the single equal is to set a value, okay? And then double equal is also setting, or
Yeah, accepted result and actual result is same, but single equal like a variable equal to value set.
if this was correct, what would be the outcome? If this was a code, what would be the result of this? What is the return for this?
Is it on whatever the accepted result is coming, actual result is the same thing coming.
No, but okay. All right, so we'll get back.
This is true.
It's true.
It's a Boolean, like
Boolean,
expression.
correct? Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to hear. This is okay.
It's true.
So why am I getting a true or false in here? It's because you are
It's
comparing.
Boolean expression.
Yeah, because you're comparing, right? Double equal, you're comparing. Anytime you're using double equal, you're gonna either get it true or false. That's it. Okay. Anytime from anybody's doing Java, if you are doing double equal, that means you are comparing. The comparison will give you only true or false. So the outcome of your code always should be true or false, depending on what you're comparing. Single equal is assignment. You are saying, okay, actual result is equal to this thing. Okay, that's what you're saying, right? So that's exactly what you're saying. The actual result is equal to this thing. So just remember, single equal is assignment, double equal is for comparing. Okay, cool. All right, so let's get back to, I just wanted to make sure that people are thinking a little bit harder this morning. Okay, so now somebody is, okay, so let me just go ahead and write our first test case. What do we want to verify here? We're not doing end-to-end in the beginning, right? Let's say you are, what would be your first test case here, right? You're on the auto page, right? What do you want to validate something? Do you want to click on it and then enter this information and see if you can go to the next step? What do we want to validate, right? Anybody want to give me test cases?
First, validate the title.
Okay, so validating this title, page title. Okay, so anytime you're doing test automation, anytime you automate something, before you want to do anything else, you want to just make sure that you are in the right place. So you go to the head and you look for the title. In this case, the developers put the title pretty big. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take the whole title. So first, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this as our URL, right? This is our base URL. Okay, and then, okay, so that's one. Okay. So we'll take this and we'll say, I just got to give it a nice name. Okay, before we do first thing, I just want to have a goal, right? Remember, we're not going to come up with the goal on the fly. We're going to need the goal first, right? So I'm going to go ahead. So this is the test case that we're going to do. We click on this. We're going to enter all this information and we click on continue to next step. And we're going to validate the first test case that we can go to the next page after entering information. Okay. That's the first test case. The second test case will be the end-to-end flow, right? From the beginning to all the end, we are getting a 6 months premium. And then the third test case, we'll probably do another line of business. Let's see if we have the time, because we also have to do GitHub, right? We want to push our code to GitHub later. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back and start doing it. in the process, right? What I want to also explain is that when you're automating, there are only handfuls of elements. Anything in this page is an element. Do you agree? Anything. Now, this is a element or object, if you want to call. This element is for a text field. Okay, this is a text field element. This is just a label. This is just a label. Okay, this is a text field. This is a label. This is a text field. This is the label. So when you're doing your action with Selenium, we're not gonna go ahead and click this guy and say, okay, how come nothing is happening here, right? This is just a label. This is a separate element, and this is a separate element. This is for us to understand what this element is, but Selenium doesn't need to understand what it is. We can just directly go here. Okay. So then this is a drop-down element. So we're going to learn how to deal with drop-downs, right? Let's go back real quick. Immediately, anybody can spot a bug here? Immediately, can anybody spot any bug here?
Yes,
What is it?
the phone numbers.
Exactly, 10 digit. If they're doing a business in US, then it shouldn't be more than 10 digit, right? That's called field validation. So phone number field do not have any validation. So when you are testing like forms, this is a form, right? Because the information is being taken from multiple text field. In this form, there will be fields, and you want to enter nothing and click next and see if they have form validation, meaning they're red, they're showing you right things, saying, okay, your last name is required, your first name is required, your address is required, and things like that, right? So you're going to find that before even going forward with the end-to-end. End-to-end, it should be the last one you want to do to make sure that at least the entering negative or positive information should at least lead you to all the way, depending on what scenarios you are in. So we are today going to learn about a lot of drop-down, okay? A lot of text fields. Now, when you are automating website and you are fearful right now, let's say, some of you guys are, that, oh my God, this is something that I cannot automate, or I am not going to be able to do this. Let me just give you some hope here, is that when you learn a few things, for example, how to deal with a text field, okay? How to deal with a text field with Selenium, right? That's what we're going to be learning today. Then you want to deal with drop-down, okay? Then you got drop down, okay? And then what else there is that you want to interact with? So we got drop down and field. Is there anything else? Is there anything else in these pages? If there's nothing else in this page, but anything else that you think?
I think
Click is an action, right? I'm asking for elements, any elements that you'll be dealing as a, when you automating, right?
Dates, date of birth.
Date of birth is still a drop down, right? You see, drop down, correct?
Social security.
Social security is still a text field. It's just have limitation, right?
Uppercase, lowercase, I think.
Let's say that again.
Uppercase, lowercase is name, first letter is uppercase, I think.
That is not a requirement. Here I can write non-uppercase, right?
Okay.
Okay, nothing happens. I'm asking for element, you guys. I'm asking for element that you will be interacting with, okay?
Zip code.
Zip code is a text field. You see, it's already there. Anything that is not here that I just wrote.
Address.
Address still a text field.
I lost.
Not only look here, right? Like look elsewhere too, any other websites.
Okay.
I'm gonna bring up another one.
Is that a required field?
second. I'm gonna bring, this is a demo website too. So I'm gonna go ahead and register and show you guys. Okay, so now that I'm signed in, I go to the flight. Okay, so I'm trying to book a flight, round trip and everything. What other elements here do you see that is not over there? We already got text fill and drop down, so don't tell me those two.
Those are round.
Select the go.
So the round one somebody mentioned, you're right, but that is call. It should be radio button, right? That is a radio button. So when you go to work and now you're able to call this a radio button, then you're fine. But if you don't and you say a round thing, that shows inexperience, right? So just make sure that you keep that in mind. These things we call radio button. So we got 3. What else can we have, right? Let me go back, get back to that flight finder. Going to New York or something. Blue skies, continue. Return previous. Let's see, hotels, no, flights. No seats available. What? Maybe I'm choosing. Okay. Let's see if it's whatever. I don't know. It's not giving me flights or anything. Maybe this is broken. But
you chose the return month wrong. Okay. October and November.
So just do December, right? I'll say December 25th and July. Come on. I just want something to work. Okay. So we got so far text field, drop down, and radio, right? What other fields do you think out there? Because remember, you're the automation person. You'll have to deal with those fields when you do your thing, right? So
like a checkbox, maybe?
Yep. So checkbox. Okay. What else? Anything else that you guys can think of?
Selector.
Selector is an element. You tell me. Okay, so we can go back to our old website. Okay, so we got quite a few already. Now I'm gonna give you some things that you probably never thought of. This is called navigation bar, right? This element is called navigation bar, okay? This one. And now you can see sky's the limit in terms of test cases. You can just click and see how many you see. Okay, so that's gonna be a lot of test cases there. Then you want to, if you kind of look at it, this is called header element. We got footer. And then sometimes a website have sidebar, left side, right side bars. This one doesn't have it. And then you will see, like, let's say something like this. These are elements, but these are like, I cannot just give you a specific name, right? Because anything in the page is an element, anything that you can interact with. You see, this is an element, but this is a div element, and it has only text. Okay, so if I click on it, you'll see this is a div and this is an ID for the div. And then within that, there is, let me just open that up. There is this information, okay? So anything in this pages is an element. So every other element is easier to deal with. You just need to know how to deal with the dropdown, which is a little bit more complicated. Checkbox and radio is very similar to each other. Now, question for you guys. if you know how to deal with this guys, right? If you know only this, how many is in there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you know how to deal with this 7, do you think you're going to be fine to automate a web page like this? Is that raises anybody's comfort level here? Is that gives somebody hope that, okay, you know what? I was thinking that I can't do it, but now I think that I can. Any thoughts? I'm just trying to summarize and tell you that it's not like you're dealing with an ocean. It's not like, oh, it's so big that I cannot even think about, right? Or it's so big that I have to spend so much time. We're only dealing with these elements, right?
Yes, we can.
Right. So these are the elements that we're dealing with on a web page, right? Other than that, like anything that we cannot interact as a human being, you don't have to test that because that is not, we're trying to mimic human beings when we're writing those tests. So now, if you are able to interact with these elements and be able to verify a expected result, then that's it, right? That's one. Okay. The second thing is that you need to understand is the selectors. What is a selector in test automation, right? So typically what's going to happen is we have a driver, right? Like yesterday, right? We created a driver instance right here. You see
Yep.
the driver. Now we are saying driver, get me this and get me that, right? But now there is another method. It's called find elements, and it takes parameters. It takes parameters, and parameter is basically by what? By CSS selector, by XPath, by right. So it takes different kind of selectors. Okay. So inside of here, we can specify saying CSS selector, right? And then we just provide the CSS selector here. And then we successfully located our element and then click. We can do some action after the location is confirmed, right? And then we can do clicks and keys depending on what kind of element that is. So now, which one of those you will do the click and which one of those you will do send keys, dot send keys, right? So you got the other action that you can do here is dot send keys. Send keys is to type something, to write something, okay? And it takes parameter and you can type a string here. Okay, you can type anything that you want. So which one you'll click and which one you will enter something.
Checkbox, click,
You're gonna do checkbox click, okay?
and navigation bar,
Mm-hmm.
and
Header and footer.
I don't know.
Header and footer.
You can click them, yeah.
Radio button click.
But also, I'll give you another one. I'll give you another one. Let's see. And these are the methods that Selenium provides you with. These are action methods. Get text, right? Get text basically grabs all the text. So if you have a footer, it will take all of this text and return you with a string, okay? Outcome of this will be a string. Outcome of these two will be nothing because remember, you're just doing something. That's it. It has no returns. So handfuls of things that we can do. These are the actions that we'll have to do. Any automation tool out there, and I can say that with confidence, if you go out there and your company is using a different tool, not Selenium, then you'll be still fine. What we're teaching here, you'll be still fine because any automation tool will be doing the same steps. It's just the name is different. The naming will be different. This method name could be different, other thing, right? It could be find only. It's not find element, it's just find, right? So as long as you learn one automation tool, you should be fine with other automation tools as well, right? It will not take you more than a couple of days to get up to speed. So just keep that in mind. Don't think like, oh, now I'm going to learn like Q2P, or I want to learn Cypress, or I want to learn another tool because that is more cool. My friend said that. Just learn one and everything else will just be easy for you to just grasp. So when you join a company, you'll be fine. Now, the reason why I'm even talking about it, and the topic is here, is the selector, right? And selectors actually, is that when you want to grab, like the first portion is basically you want to locate the element, you will need a selector. And only then you can do these actions. Only then you will be able to do these actions. You are not able to do these actions unless you have located your element. Imagine you want to write something and you don't tell where to write. You're not basically saying, just write something. What do you think the Selenium will do? Right? It doesn't know where to write. It will just say, first provide me with an element location, right? So now if you want to write here on the first name and you click this guy, you got ID. Okay, so ID has a value called fname. Okay, so you put fname here. So in this case, if this was an ID, then I'll have to change this to an ID. That's what I want to use. So ID, and you're gonna say fname, right? Right here, fname. If it's lowercase, it has to be exact. It's case sensitive. So the first selector, number one, is ID. ID typically is unique, and it should be unique. So when the developers create an ID, they definitely put unique values. And so if you know for fact ID is unique, how do you know ID is unique? You can actually test that. You go ahead and copy this and then do find, command find, put the fname right here, right? And put a hashtag front of it. Look at this, 1 of 1. And it highlights the line of code. That means this ID is unique, is one of a kind in this page. There is nothing like it, okay? So you can use that. So that's ID. ID is unique. It needs to be unique for you to use it. If it's not unique, for example, let's say the same name belongs to the last name, then the problem here is that Selenium is gonna just work with the first one. Sometimes Selenium will say ambiguous element, meaning there is more than one element and I don't know where to click, or I don't know where to write stuff, right? So depending on what action you're doing, it will either go with the first one or either it will give you an error saying, okay, you got 2 items, same name, okay? So always to make sure that we're using unique values when we are interacting with any sort of elements. Number 2, let's say ID is done, but there is name also, right? In this case, name probably not a good idea to use, but name is still there that you can use, right? So name is another selector. Number 3, in this case, there is, okay, let's see. What else can we find? In here, you got class name, okay? So you can use class name too. Number 4, these are links, right? So if you go into these guys, right? So as you can see A, so if you click on it, you see the link right here?
A hyperlink, right? Yeah.
Right. Anything that you see with a tag, most likely it's a link.
Mhm.
And if you expand that, there's more links. So they're like clickable, right? So link, what is one thing link has? Link has is text unique, right? Because they're not gonna have 2 links with the same name. So most likely link has the text, their link text is unique. So the selector, it could be link text. Link text, that's another selector, okay? Number 5 is, my favorite is CSS selector. CSS selector, you can, if you don't know how to create one, all you got to do with your Chrome, right click, copy selector. That's it. This is going to go and give you a CSS selector. This is how it looks like. Okay, this is how it looks like. I'll teach you guys how to create your own. It's not going to be as ugly as this, right? If you want to create your own, it will be even easier, right? You don't have to be that, There is a downside to this is because it's using the hierarchy of the HTML tags. Now, if you're using a hierarchy with the HTML tags, if something change on the navigation ID, then your test will fail, right? In order to check this link, it's basically going through the whole, the 1, 2, 3 elements, we can directly go there, right? So we'll teach you guys that's how to create your own CSS selector later. Number 7 is XPath. XPath sometimes comes handy when CSS selector feels more challenged, right? When you are automating. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think 7 is going to be 7. Number 7 is partial link text. That means the link text is so long that you don't want to use that entire thing, or the link text has something that always changes, then you want to use the partial link text at least to grasp that link and click on it. So these are some that we'll try to use today for our test automation. So let's get started. I know like it's took a long time just to explain. We took an hour nearly, but we need to know that if people really understand and establish their understanding before we move forward. Okay. So let's go ahead and write our first test case. And I'm gonna go ahead and reuse this first one because it has no real meaning, right? We're just doing something. So I'm gonna say verify that user can move to, what is this page called? Code request form. Okay, to the next, continue to step 2. Okay. Page. Okay. So verify that user can go to step 2 page. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. We don't really want to keep them here for now. And then I will go ahead and go back and go ahead and click Command C and paste it here. Okay, so this is our URL. First thing first, we're moving there. The second thing, we want to verify the title. Why do we verify the title first? As a automation person,
Need to know that we're on the right page.
In the right page, yes. Because think about this way: you are on a wrong page and you're trying to validate something. It's never going to work, right? So go ahead and run this real quick just to make sure this is passing, and then we move forward. Okay, something failed. Expected, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so notice one thing, right? Its assertion will give me a very good idea about what really happened. Expected is this, okay? And actual is also this, right? Now, what is the difference here, right? Do you guys see any difference? Comma, 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 okay. That is absurd. Okay, maybe this extra spacing is creating this issue. I'm gonna go ahead and remove this. Okay, there you go. I had an extra space because when I copied it, as you can see, there's an extra space. So I thought maybe we need that. But what's happening is that when we do get text, get title, it trimming, it basically removing that extra space. Okay. So up to that much, we know we're on the right page. The next thing is we want to click on an element. Okay. Anybody here wants to guide me as to what to do here? I want to click on this element. This is a link, so we can
right click and then get to inspect.
Already here.
Okay.
What do we do?
And then we copy exactly what it is in the.
But give me an idea. Give me a plan. What is your plan?
Sorry, Joel, go ahead.
Click.
Driver.
Okay, so give me a plan first before I write it, because I don't want to. I want people to actually contribute. What do you plan to do?
Selector.
Which selector you want to use? Okay, I'm gonna give you select list of.
Selector here is you said the click.
Link text.
Sorry. Click. Element. Find element. Click.
Right. So if you are saying click is a selector, then you're wrong, right? So that's why, we went through the whole thing. Click is an action. This is an action. This is an action, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let me explain again. But again, like I said, just make sure that you understand the fundamentals before jumping into like bigger pieces, because these are the selector type, correct? In Selenium, these are the different selector type that we can use. Now, by looking at this element, what I can see, I can use the class name to click on it, right? Obviously, there is no mistake here that we want to do a click, right? There is no, like, what do we want to do, right? We want to do a click, right? That's the first thing we want to do. Now, if we want to be able to click, we need this selector first, right? To be able to grasp what we want to click on. ID, out of option. Do you see any ID here?
No.
Okay. Do you see any name here?
No.
No name, right? Okay, then do you see any class name here?
Yes.
Yes.
You see the class name that you can actually use. Then, even though we already found something to click on, but we want to find something better. Then do you want to see number 4 is link text. Is there a link text?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a CSS selector? Yes, there is. Xpath, of course there is, and then partial link text. So all of them are here except for the ID.
ID.
So now if you ask me to choose between, because all of them are here except for the name and ID, and if you say, okay, which one is your, at least for a link, we will always choose the link text, because two things happening, right? One, you're when you're clicking on a link text, you're validating also if the link, that text actually exists. So you're doing two things, killing two birds in one shot. And link text typically is unique at all times. So instead of using the class name, if you're using the link text, it definitely helps with your test validation, because you're verifying something on the way. Okay, so let me mute you guys because this is being recorded, so I don't want other people when they later hear. Where did it go? Okay, there we go. All right, cool. So yeah, like I said, just basic rule. If you have questions or if you want to answer something, unmute, but then quickly mute yourself so it becomes better for everybody else. Okay, so now we got the link text. I'll go ahead and click on that and copy this text, right? Because we want to be able to use this link text to click. Copy, and then I'm going to go back to my thing right here. Okay, so I'm going to say find element, right? So driver dot find. We got two items here, find element and find elements. Luckily, you got IntelliJ tell you what is the return type. This is a web element return and this is a list return. Okay, so that means this is an array and this is just a single element. So we want single element. We're not dealing with 20 elements here, right? By dot, in this case, we want to use link text. You see, by link text. Okay, so I rewrote by, so I don't know why it's giving me. Okay, that's fine. Okay, link text, there you go. Okay, so just make sure you got the right one. There's definitely more than one suggestions. Link text, we need to put that here. Okay, so now I will go ahead and paste it. And this is our link text. So far, so good, right? Before we just go ahead and click, I would like to create this as a variable so I can click on this later. Okay, so what is the type of variable that will be? Remember when we seen it? It will be a
web element.
Web element. Web element, and we give it a nice conventional name, auto insurance code to request link, right? So we can say code request link. And that's it, right? So now, because this is a web element, right, that we just created, we can go ahead and click on it, right? So pasted that here, dot, and it's telling me what to do. Click, clear, find, you know, I can do a lot of things, right? But all we want to do is click. That's it. Okay. Okay, so let's quickly run it. If this works, then we move forward to the next step. Okay, that's it. And like I said, guys, things like that happen all the time when we're automating. So it says no such element. Okay, no such element, and that could be because it didn't load it correctly or something. I'm just gonna do a debug here by putting a sleep maybe like a minute or second or so, just to make sure that it has proper time. But then it shouldn't be, right? Because we're already validating this. It should fail this first. So something with the selector. Link text, something with the selector is off here. So I'm just going to read a little bit before. Unable to locate element, method, link text, selector, auto. So you see there's spacing, weird spacing here going on. So just want to make sure that it's okay. There you go. Okay. This is what you're going to be facing all the time. Okay. So notice how HTML contains this space. Maybe there's an extra space, but here I don't see it. So if I copy this link text directly from here, it will not have the space. So I'm going to give it a try to make sure that this is not the issue here. Right. So there is an extra space here, as you can see. And let's give it a try real quick. Okay, this time it clicked. Okay, so just make sure that just don't get disappointed right away. Oh, it's not working. Boom, I'm gonna go back to bed or something, right? You know, when you see issues and you face that issue and you're able to find a solution, this definitely will help you the next time when you write a test case, because you already have some knowledge that you know about test automation. Okay, so now HTML somehow contains that extra space, the way that they have created this link, but then the link itself, right? Because we're taking the link text, it doesn't have that space right here. So all we have to do is remove that space. So keep that in mind. Anything is possible in terms of errors and how to handle them. Okay. So now that we clicked and we land on a new page, what should we do first? Anybody want to try that answer?
So now we are doing like, enter the first name, click that.
But you're in a new page. What do you
We also need to see if we're in the right page. We need to see the title.
We want to see that if we are in the right page, right? Because remember, like you start looking for the first name, last name, and start putting information, and you're not there, then it will, it will give you a fail saying, okay, first name, last name is not there. Then you're going to be creating a bug right away and going to your developers, hey, first name, last name doesn't exist. What is happening here? And they're going to say, wait a minute, it does. It's just that your test took a few seconds to load, right? But also your test is not going to be rigid. Like writing a test automation is not the only thing, right? You have to write a test automation that will not fail for just because there is a loading issue. Okay. So this time what we're going to do is that you see how we did title. I don't want to do title anymore. I'm going to show you something new. So validate, I'm going to just start writing validate. We are in form page. What did I just do here? Is it what kind of thing is like in Java? Somebody learned Java, right? From Code Academy. What is this?
A single line code.
Single line comment.
It's
comment, yeah.
It's comment.
Single line comment, right? Okay, good. I'm just gonna test here and there your Java knowledge. Okay, so now my idea, right? I am a QA engineer and I work for this company for now, right? Let's say, and I choose what I'm validating. Okay, I am going to choose, and I'm going to be working in behalf of the company, the best interest at this point, right? What is the best possible thing that I can do? Instead of choosing page title to validate I'm on the right page, I am going to choose this is because I'm doing two things. One, I'm checking I'm on the right page, and second, I'm checking to make sure it has the right text. Okay, so I can do both of the text if I want to. and pretty much killing two birds with one stone at this point, right? Same thing. So how do I know this text? I'm gonna go ahead and you see, I'm gonna go ahead and click that, and it gives me h1 as a tag, and then it has an ID. So the div contains h1. Okay, so inside of div there is a h1. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this ID, and I'm gonna validate if this is a unique ID. The way you validate here unique ID, you put a hashtag in front of it and you put the title, boom, that is unique. Okay, and the reason I am able to use this ID is because it only contains the element that I am interested in, okay, which is the h1. If it has more than that, then I will have to go inside, but I can just do it from outside now, meaning the div itself. So I'm gonna say header or header text, right? Or page. This is page. It's not a page title, but this is like what do we call this? Let me see. They put it h1, right? Page footer. Okay, whatever. I'm gonna just call it header text. Okay. So in this case, web element header text is equal to. How do we get that header text? Anybody wants to tell me? It's gonna be similar, right? It's very similar.
Driver dot find element.
Find element.
Yeah.
By what?
By dot ID.
ID. And then let's go ahead and look at our list. So far, what we used ID and we used the link text. Okay, just remember that. So we're using ID now. Okay, ID takes some sort of parameter, correct? Okay, what do we put in here?
The
link, the ID title.
Okay, so we go ahead and put. Okay, once we did that, why is it still red? Who wants to?
Semicolon.
Right, okay, good. There you go. Good. So now that we have a header text element, so I'm gonna say header text and get me what action can I use from here? What action? You got 3 actions to be able to get my expected actual result, right? So I'm gonna say string actual text header. Okay, so header dot what? Get text, correct? Get text. How do I know get text is a string? Because remember, I already defined that as a string, but how do I know this method will give me a string? So let me just go back real quick. Get text, look at this. You see? It's a string. If it didn't give a string and I put string as a data type, then it would already be red and go crazy, right? Okay, so now we got actual header text. Then what we need to do is we need to get expected. What we are expecting, this is the text we're expecting, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I copy that. And then I'm gonna say string header text is equal to, again, assignment, right? This is an assignment we're doing. And this is your expected, right? Then we're going to say we want to validate that as that's the case, right? So we're going to say assert from TestNG, not from other stuff that is going to show you, but TestNG. And then we're going to say assert has true, false, and other things. There's not only just one thing, there's a lot more. So assert, you got way too many things going on here. And so assert equals, it takes pretty much, it takes different parameters. That is one of the example of method overriding, right? If you touch that, actual result goes first. It shouldn't be matter. too much, right? Because they should be both equal to each other. But it's fine. So typically they expect the actual result to be go first. Okay, so that's validating we're in the right page. We're going very slow, right? But it's a good thing for a lot of people. So we'll just keep it as that. Next thing, we're gonna start fill out the form. Now that we know that we're in the right page. So for first name, who wants to be the person to tell me how to write the first name here? Okay, anybody?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Driver dot.
Hold on. Okay, so do you want to create? Let's follow the convention, right? Here's the deal. When you join a company and they follow something like this, then you follow that too. You don't just write your own code and just say, okay, this is how I write it. You just follow what the convention. So what is the convention? Convention is basically creating a web element first, then we do whatever we need to do with the web element. There's a good reason why I'm doing it, because the next class we're going to be taking this out and putting it somewhere separate, and then we're going to just call the name. So web element.
Web element.
First name.
Yeah, first name
is equal to
driver dot find element.
Why not find elements? Which one do you want to use?
The first one.
Okay, but would you be able to use the find elements, the second one?
No, because it's the list of return type is list of.
Okay.
So
okay. What do you want to use here?
By dot
string name.
Okay, so who's
ID.
That? Name ID. Who's saying this? Hold on a second. Is this Moonbai?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess I'm going to make you as an example. You need to be able to see what you're dealing with, right? This is not guessing game, because remember, you're an engineer. We don't just say, okay, maybe name, maybe ID, and maybe this. There is no maybe here. Either you see something and you do it, or either you see, or you don't do it, right? You don't even know what is a selector that we can use. This is the list of selector we talked about. Which one can we use here? We don't know that. I don't know that.
Yeah.
So how do you know its name?
Inspect the.
So you would have to inspect, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then you choose which one do you want. From you got name and you got ID. Which one do you want to choose?
I want ID.
ID because that's the first one in the. This is the first one. But then how do you know this is unique, right? So just go ahead and remember what we did. You just got to put a hashtag in front of it, and then just go ahead and enter. As long as you see 1 of 1, that is your ID.
Yes.
Now you guys understand, right? I just made one person as an example to, nothing to grill you guys about, but you can't simply, like, if you're going to call yourself an engineer and you're just going to believe in myths, then, that's going to be totally contradicting, right? Because you're going to just not going to go to work and say, I'm going to use ID, I'm going to use names, and they didn't even publish the website yet. Like, imagine like you're talking to your developers and they said, hey, we didn't put the code into a server yet. The code is not deployed. Can you start testing? And you're like, yeah, I can test it. I can test it with the names and IDs and all this stuff. But wait a minute, I didn't deploy the code. Wait a minute, that website doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying? So that a lot of red flags can be raised based on how you are doing. But again, what I want you guys to be, remember, like the personality, like your personality, because you're jumping into a career, you need to have a personality for it. And over the 3 months here, I want you to develop one personality, which is very detail oriented and somebody who can at least do some critical thinking, meaning before saying anything, you better have a good reasons. Like, for example, okay, you know what, can I go ahead and look at the page and do inspect element and then tell you, you know what I'm saying? That's very reasonable, right? How would you be able to tell me what is the ID for zip code? Maybe it doesn't have an ID. Maybe it does. So do you want to go with maybe, or do you want to go with like, okay, can I just take a look? All right. So think about it. Like I said, I made somebody as an example, but this is just to make sure that you guys become who you want to become, right? Which is detail oriented, right? Somebody pays attention to good details, and then somebody who has patience, and somebody who is also a process oriented. So today we're teaching you process, and moving forward we're teaching you process, and you follow the process. All right. Now that we have the first name, I want you to write something on it. Now you have yourself this. Which action would you use to write something on it?
Dot send keys.
Send keys, right? Okay. So send keys take series of characters, as you can see, character sequences. So now it is, in fact, could be. So here is a character sequence that it will take, but it still isn't. It's a string, but it can also take, different. Send keys is also method. This basically also take different parameters, right? So we'll talk about that. It's method overloading, overriding. I'm sure you guys probably deal with method overloading and overriding with Code Academy if you finish 100%. But if you didn't, then we'll talk about those at some point. Okay, so go ahead and give me a name that I would like to enter here, right?
What first name?
First name, what do you want to put? Like, let's say John or something. I don't know. Like,
What do you name?
Joe. Joe.
Yeah.
Usually, like when I do testing for myself, I just put tester, right? Because what's happening is this information, somebody else in the website, somebody else going into the same server, and they're looking into it, and they can say, okay, this is tester. This is not a genuine actual person coming in and trying to do something, right? Somehow somebody got access from outside world, they're not gonna be freaked out. So do something that will resemble or at least show that you are a tester. Okay, so I want another person to give me for last name. And try to do quickly because you got a lot of help right here already, line 48 and 47, sorry, 49. Who wants to be that person?
Web element last name equals to driver
Dot find element, yeah.
find element dot find element.
Web element last name. Can I also do this and tell me why not, right? Can I also do L name is equal to?
Yeah, it's
Just the person who's helping me with this right now. So Munzer, right?
Yes.
Can I go ahead and do this, or can I not do this?
It depends on the form. What's on the form probably.
No, but what is this that we're doing right now? So I know you're doing driver dot find element. Yes, we're gonna be doing that, and by, and then I'll show you what that looks like, last name, and then you would also want to choose an ID. But then ID becomes a CSS selector when you put a hashtag in front of it, correct? So we're gonna use CSS selector at this point because we want to use all of them today. So we did ID name. I don't know if we used name yet, but we use link text. And right now I'm going to use the CSS selector, right? So you had plenty of time to think about. So remember the same thing. I'm taking an ID and I'm converting that into a CSS selector by putting in a hashtag. So Manzoor, can you tell me what it is?
You mean this
One
is
clue. Here's a clue, right? For 51, line number 51. It's not red, so it must be right. So then what it is, this thing. Okay, so we took that three seconds here. So I'm sure there are other people like Monzur that is confused about this. So let me explain.
It's me.
So this is just a variable name.
Yeah.
You are the one who's reading it. Okay. If you are the person who's naming it, then can you name anything you want? It could be moon, right? If you want to, it could be sun if you want. Doesn't really matter. But you work in a company and you're seeing that your coworker following a very good convention. They doing camel casing. This is a camel casing, meaning the first letter of the variable is lowercase and then everything else is uppercase of the first letter for every other words. And you want to follow the camel casing as well. And you want to give it a very conventional name. Like you don't want to later comment what is sons means, right? So if this is a last name, you want to do a camel casing for the last name. So last name, and that's the convention. That's something that you mutually agreed to your coworker, meaning you know that this is the standard. This is what they follow. But you can also just go ahead and put B and it will work. It doesn't mean it's not going to work. It's just that your coworker is going to come and look at you like, oh man, can you do us a favor and give it a good name? You know, that's the, because you're not the only one who's going to be using this later, right? So if you create something, somebody else, good chance somebody else is going to be using it. So give it a good name. Okay. People do people that do computer science, people, and I'm talking about developers, right? There is a saying, there's a famous saying, is that what is the hardest thing for a developers or engineers to do? What is the hardest when they write code? Let's see if somebody can find out. Anybody want to try that? And that's somebody, one of my former boss actually told me that. So I'm just trying to share with you guys.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yes, small. What is different ID and CS selector?
What is the difference?
Yeah.
CSS selector is basically more like CSS selector you can create yourself. It will be more, it is unique, but it is dynamic, right? Meaning if nothing is here, let's say if ID doesn't exist, okay, so let's remove the ID. Let's remove the name, and now what you can use in this case, what can you use? You can still use CSS selector because CSS selector can be used to say, okay, you know what? You can have parent-child relationship. You can say, you know what? It is inside of T-body, and then after that, it is inside of TR. Sorry, it is inside of TR right here, and then it's inside of TD, and that's what I want to click on. And the tag is input. That's where I want to write something, right? You can specify based on the hierarchy of the HTML tags. And
Okay, so it means when you don't get the like any ID or anything, then you just put the CS selector, yeah.
CSS selector
You don't find.
is the solution when you see like crazy things like this, nothing in it, right?
Yeah.
But if you do get ID, your developers are kind enough to put IDs for everything, then you are fine. But trust me, 50% of the time is going to be like this, and you're going to be up to using CSS selector, or you're going to be using the XPath. So in this case, if you do copy CSS selector, and as you can see, it will not use ID because I remove him, right? And you can see like how it is able to like use the whole hierarchy to find that input. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So these are your tools, and you use them as needed. Okay. You use them as needed. You don't have to show your skill set by saying I'm going to use XPath 24/7. You don't have to show your skill saying I'm going to be using CS selector at all times because I know how to create them. But you use based on what you need. Okay. So next, let's go to the email. Who wants to do the email?
Me.
You
okay.
Right. So let's give other people a chance because I would like other people to also contribute. It's great that you're participating, which is definitely showing that you're learning. So anybody else who wants to contribute here? You got two help already. Somebody already helped. Ripon helped with this, and then Manzur helped with this, right? So
it's a web element.
Okay, so you also want to create a web element.
Email
is equal to
driver. Find email.
Find what? Email?
I mean find element.
Okay. Okay. By what? What do you want to select by?
We need to see the text.
Maybe you want to see it, right? So you want to inspect that. Okay. I was trying to catch you there. Okay. Which one do you want to use?
ID.
Okay. So ID, and I'm going to convert that into an expat. So what I'm going to do, right click. The reason again, we can easily choose ID, right? But I want to use expat is because we want to use all of these, right? As you can see, expat, you can create this on your own. But I would like to use all of them today just to make sure that we are good.
Who knows everything?
Exactly. Notice when I pasted one thing that the IDE helped me with is called escaping. Okay, because outside we have double quote and inside we have double quote, right? So in this case, what happened is it applied escaping / because it's telling it to the code that, listen, this is the real code, quotation. This is one thing. The whole thing is one thing, right? And this code right here is being escaped with this because otherwise it's going to throw an error, right? So remember what escaping in programming. If you don't know it, escaping in programming, let me just do a little bit of Google search, right? Okay. Escaping is a method that allows us to tell a computer to do something special with the text we supply, or we ignore the special of a character, right? So now, even if you have, let's say, we want to say, okay, ignore this. That's what we're doing. If something had like for example, let's say it had something like this, like you see the comma from the top, and we're going to say, look, can you ignore this? Then we can put an escape front of it. So just keep that in mind. If something is not working, even a space you can ignore, right? You can, if there's a space, you can go ahead and put escape front of it. It has to be front of it. So you see like how the double quote is front of it, we put the escape. So another thing that you just learned today is escaping. So keep that in mind. We're gonna move forward now. We're gonna say email. What can we do? Email dot
Send key.
send keys, right? Okay. And then you can say
CHRC.
yes, tier dot, let's say conventional, right? Awesome at testmail.com. Now somebody tell me if this will fail or pass because we're using testmail, right? Is it gonna fail or is it gonna pass? Is it should be Gmail all the time? Is it should be company email all the time? What's going on here? Before I run it, like quickly, you know.
Is that comma or dot? Tester dot?
Dot. That'll be dot.
No, first one.
Right here?
Yeah.
That's a dot.
So I think
it will accept it because there is no validation, email validation.
Even if there is email validation, this will still work, and I'm not going to take more time. But
this case will work, but when you go to the page,
Gmail, I think email address is wrong.
What makes you say that email address is wrong? Because of this domain?
After at something Gmail or
right. So think about this way, right? Let's say testmail is my name of the company, or testmail is something that I own and I provide email service to, right? And it's not Gmail. Look, email address, the way the developers do the validation for a field, they are checking that after this character, it should have .com or .net or one of those dots and anything for this string. Okay, that's the way they do validation, some of the validation. In the beginning, they see it should be alphanumeric, but there should not be two of these. Okay, there should not be two .coms and things like that. So, or there should not be .com missing or .net missing or other dots, right? Like other sort of like domains, right? Is missing. They're expecting these three components. It needs to have this, it needs to have a string, and then it needs to have a dot, and it needs to have another string. Okay, that's the way that it's broader. It's email validation is more broader. So this one is not going to fail because they're not specifically testing to see if it's Gmail or, Yahoo. Okay, so we are up to that email, right? The next one is phone number, and I'm not gonna spend too much time with that since all of you guys have contributed there. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy paste there. Phone number. I'm gonna real quick go with the phone number because we want to move to the next page. I think everybody understood what's happening here. Okay, what's happening? Okay, I got to remove this. Otherwise, it's gonna keep choosing that. Okay, phone number has an ID, which is phone. And now we can reuse the ID. Remember, we use pretty much everything almost, right? Partial link text is missing. Expert we use, CSS selector we use, link text we use, class name we didn't use. Let's see if there's any class name here. We don't even have a class name, so unfortunately we can't use that. So I'll go ahead and use the ID. Okay, and then we want to go ahead and put a number. So remember, number doesn't have a validation, so we can put anything anyway. So we got 444, 555, and 6666. Typically for testing, I always put number like this because that way anybody's looking into, or at least somebody getting a call, they have to be extremely lucky to have this number to get that call. Sometimes what happens is your company your company is going to start calling people, even if it's QA environment, somehow that is not disabled and people are calling unless somebody is enabled. So they will definitely mention, hey, do not like put a real number because somebody's going to get the call, right? So in that case, they will probably provide you with the right test data, right? They were going to say, okay, use this number only, right? And they know that this test data will not be getting that call. So if you don't get the test data, just be wise about it. Just make sure that you're not, just know if something is turned on to your environment. And if your environment is something that will make that call, then if it's not going to make the call, then yeah, just use anything you want. You can use your own number if you want to. Okay, and then lastly, we want to go ahead and click there. I'm not going to deal with that drop down today. We're probably is very close. Okay, so as you can see, we got ID, we got class name. So this time we're going to use the class name even though there is an ID. I'm going to give you guys a small trick here. Notice how the class name has button to success, and NSFS button 1. You got a 1, 2, 3. Every time you see a space in class, it's a separate class, okay? It's a separate class name. When you see a space, you replace that with a dot for class name, okay? So that way you can use more than one class name. If you want to use more than one class name, you have to replace that with a dot. But if you just want to use one, you want to first test it to make sure that is unique. So if I do a dot front of it, instead, just like how we did it for ID. For class name, you put a dot front of it, and it basically becomes your CSS selector. So I just tested my class name to make sure that is a valid. Okay, and that is basically a, okay, so we did the zip code. Then we do the same thing for clicking on a button. And in this place, we're going to do class name, right? Because that's what we're missing.
Can you go the back, like phone number down, then can you write down the command like zip code?
Yeah, zip code is done, right?
No, I'm saying the comment. Write down the comment.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Zip code. Okay, so now we got the click button, right? Instead of this, and we're going to say, this is a continue button, right? So I'm going to give it a nice name. VTN, you can do something like this, right? Okay, so then we got the class name right here. You see, out of 3 class name, I only chose 1. Does it make sense to you guys? Because this is something pretty important, right? I only chose 1, button success. We got class name button, button success, and SF button 1. Anytime you see a space, that means they're separate name, separate class name. Okay. So out of these 3, I only chose 1 because I don't need all 3. But what if I want to combine 2? I want to use both. Then I can just say .btn, right? Now I'm still using it because I'm combining these 2. I'm removing the space with the dot. Okay, this is just for the testing purpose here. Okay, when you use the class name, you don't have to put that dot here, because when you put a dot in front of the class name, it becomes a CSS selector. So I have to change this to CSS selector to make it work. Otherwise, I just remove this and it's happy and healthy. On a button, what can we do? Do send keys, we got to remove that. What we want to do here?
Click.
Right, there we go. So now we're going to go ahead and run it once real quick and see what we were missing. Okay. Okay, continue. So as a QA engineer, right? So let's just walk us through this thing. Whatever. Okay, continue. And now that we're continuing to this page, right? What we want to do, right? Remember the first test case we had? We want to just make sure that we get to the.
I have a question. When you also include the name. So when you test it, so why it didn't come with the name?
What do you mean? The name, right?
Good.
Name?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
don't worry about it, because this is not with this, right? This is just me trying to get to this page. This is trying to get to this page. So if I don't think I enter anything, you see? Okay, now I do this. Boom. This is a good catch. If this was like whatever you're thinking, if that was the case, then it's a bug, right? So you would be.
No. My question was, can you go to the testers IntelliJ? Okay. Like go to the first name. Then yeah, you put here the send keys put the name the tester, yeah. So why is not coming when you click the right there? Why it didn't come the tester right there, the first name box?
Okay, so that's what I was saying. You got to pay attention, right? In the beginning, what did I say? I said I'm gonna just go ahead and go to the next page, correct? So
yeah.
I said I'm gonna enter something, and you saw me entering myself, right?
Hmm.
And I'm nothing matching here, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so that's the thing, right? When we enter this, I just want to get to this page. The purpose is to make sure that we, as a QA engineer, we're making a choice to say, okay, when can we say this test case is success? Meaning we are looking for right now assertion. So assertion, what can we assert here? That's what I'm asking, because what we want to do is that our test case, we followed everything that is here,
Yeah.
just these steps to make sure that we get to the page. We got to the page, and what can we validate here? What do we want to validate? Now, validation will include simply like okay, I'm not going to just do simple validation here, right? Because this is pretty important, right? What you want to validate here is that you want to validate that you're in this page, but
Right.
also on the page, when you are in this page, you want to make sure that everything that you type previously, right, it's also
Right.
is showing up here in this page. Is pretty much taking all previous information and pre-filling this form. If it didn't
Okay.
then what will happen is that it will create more work for the person who is trying to get this code. Okay. So this will definitely is going to be hurtful for the business, because people are going to get frustrated. They're going to go to Geico instead. Okay.
Okay.
Now let's do the other thing. Okay. Now what we want to do, right? So let's say assertion. First thing first, I'm going to go ahead and put assert. And we're going to be doing one test case today, but it is good to go as deep as we can. The first thing, I will make sure that I'm on the right page. I'm going to be looking for step 1 to 4 if it's displaying, and I can grab that text somehow. Let's see, this has a process ID. So to make sure that we're in the right progress. So I'm going to go ahead and use the progress ID to get that assertion 1. Who other than Ripon, because you've been answering a lot of questions, who else wants to answer this for assertion? You can use some of these as an example. And nobody else wants to answer this? Remember expected, right? So we're going to say web element first. And we're going to say progress status is equal to. What I'm doing right now is that I'm grabbing text from this element, correct? So this time I'm going to use an ID as driver.findElement ID. I'm going to do the reason I'm doing quickly is because we got to get to some point, right? We want to make sure that we finish on time. Okay, so now progress ID, that we have progress ID here. I'm going to say progress ID is, okay, so now I'm going to do my actual results, right? So string result for what? This is for progress, right? Status, sorry, progress status. And this should be progress status. Progress status, actual result is equal to, got text and done. And then we need to validate, right? So string expected progress result is equal to. All we have to do, this is always actual result is pretty easy, right? We just got to copy and paste them. This is our actual results. Go ahead and do the assert. Dot assert equals. And it seems repetitive, but remember when you doing this validation, it has a lot of meaning. It checks for something for you, right? Which is very good. So we did the assertion to make sure that we are at the right progress, okay? And now we're gonna say, okay, you know what? My name, my last name, my email, my phone number, everything is as I entered previously is displaying here. And that'll be it for this test case, okay? So we need to make some changes up here too, because we want to do that. We're not going to copy and paste tester, awesome, and email address. We're not going to copy and paste it again and again, right? We're going to have to do something better than that. We have to be using some more of our coding skills. So first assertion is the first name. Assert first name. Okay, so how do we grab a text from the, so let's see what it is. It is a value or is it, so let's see, text, the input ID, and it is a value. So we have to grab value, okay? How do we grab value? Let's teach you guys how to do Googling, right? Okay, so on Google, Selenium, sometimes some people don't know how to Google, right? So if I say how to do blah, 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 Google doesn't care. Just write verbs only, okay? So Selenium, then what we want to do, grab text, get value, right? Get value. The reason we cannot get text here is because, remember, these string right here is inside of value, okay? So we're going to say Selenium get value from text field or input, same thing. Okay, so we got a lot of results here. So we're going to see which one we will be choosing to use. There we go. right here. This is what we're gonna use because this is the value of the
Attribute.
we're getting, right? So now first name we gotta create. So first name has remember now we're reusing our code. So first name is already defined. Do I need to create a new one?
No.
No.
So first name dot we
Get
need to
attribute.
get attribute and value, correct? Okay. Oops, what did I do? Okay, there we go. All right. So you see some of the reuse things that you're doing. Okay. Now this becomes your what? Expected or actual? This is an actual value, correct?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Result. Okay. So we're gonna say string actual first name value. Val is equal to this, and this is our actual first name val. But what is the expected? The expected, isn't it here? This is the actual. Sorry, expected is this one, right?
Yes.
So what we're gonna say first, we're gonna basically put that in a variable string. First name val, right, is equal to tester. What am I missing here? Okay, this, right? And that, and then we're gonna say, you know what? No longer will be static. That's it. You guys, any questions here? This seems like this change happened very quickly, right? Any question?
No.
Okay. So the reason why I put it into a new variable, and this is something that people that finish Code Academy will understand. People that did not even touch Code Academy will not understand, right? So Moonbai, do you understand what's happening here? Can you explain to all of us?
Explain all of
Line number 49 and line number 50, what's happening?
Let's
Okay, so you said you did W3 or no? Did you do W3?
no, I was working on Code Academy.
Okay, so Code Academy, what is the first thing you guys learned in Code Academy? Who can tell me? Like the first couple of things. Is variable like the first?
Is a string variable?
Yes, but like,
string type is the non-primitive string type, and variable equal to, and you know.
I mean,
and the quotation, the name or whatever.
Right. See, you're right, but that's not the point, right? The point here is that I'm trying to make sure that people don't miss the homework. Here is the thing, right? The line number 49, right? Anybody with Code Academy, the first chapter includes how to create a variable. Okay. So if you did the first chapter, then this is something that you should be able to answer.
Yeah.
Anybody that did Code Academy and did not catch this or be able to understand, at least like understand without even having proper expression, I would say go back and do it again. Okay. But anybody that just at least have the sense that, okay, yeah, he's just creating a variable for later use, and he's going to reuse this later also, because this is happening anytime we're using something more than one place, we're going to create a variable. So first name is being used here. Okay, first name is already being used here. And now we're going to use the value also. This value we're going to use as expected, right? Because remember, we are the one who's putting this information. Okay, so now we're going to say our expected is already defined right here. This is our expected. So we don't even have to go ahead and give it a new name. It's already expected. So we're going to say string expected first name val. Just to make it easy for you guys, I'm going to just put it here. We don't even have to put it. That's it. We did nothing, absolutely nothing to it. We could have just used directly. Okay, so now we're going to do this assertion. Assert dot equals. And like I said, guys, make sure that you do what you need to do. You know, at least be able to, like, don't tell us that you didn't have 1 hour per day, especially if you're not working. And don't tell us your internet is not working because you have a phone, right? You can use phone internet, and Code Academy is not gonna consume all of your internet if you use your phone. Because like I said, at this point, uh, you may be able to catch up. There's a lot of new people that join, they're catching up too, but there will be point of no return at some point. At some point, you're going to be lost, so much lost. Either you're going to do two things. Either you're going to be left over to the next batch, so you are going to be behind by 6 months, or you'll give up, right? And we don't want people to give up, right? Fight harder. And if you do not sit down in front of your computer and give yourself a fair chance to understand things, then attending the class becomes meaningless, because whatever we're showing you, it's not going to stick to your brain right away. It's not gonna, because nobody can just do a bunch of code and give you directly to your brain. You have to be able to practice to get those. I can show you what it is. I'm only here to show you. I'm not giving you knowledge. I am not trying to transfer knowledge directly to your brain. I'm here telling you what can you do with this code, what are the things that you can do, and then you should be able to practice and find even more ways to deal with the similar things, right? So I'm going to go ahead and run this in the meantime. And if this is success, then we just got to do the same thing for remaining text fields, right? And then we have ourselves a very nice test, right? So in this case, let's see what is failing here. Okay, Chrome driver. So element is not attached to the page document. Okay, so first name, we just, okay, this is where the problem is most likely, but let's see. 77, correct, okay. So we need to create another web element. It's not attached because, again, remember, it's already moved to the next page, okay? Driver dot this, but we have to create a variable here again, okay? Otherwise, it's not gonna
work.
We moved from one page to the other, and it's no longer attached to the page. That's what happened. But because it has the same ID, we can just go ahead and create a new element, web element, and then we're going to say first. We don't have to. Do we have to do this for this one? Expected results, and tell me why and why not. And Ripon, I'll take your answer at the end. Let's see if somebody can answer first, because I want to see if somebody's making a mistake. 79. Do I have to do the same thing? What I'm doing here is creating a new variable, because this element is no longer, the first name element is no longer attached to the page.
No, I can use the same name.
It could be same, right? You said?
Yes.
Okay. And why?
Because previous values not exist on the variable.
What not exist for the variable?
The previous variable name.
Okay, so okay, that's true, but that is not the reason why you can keep the same thing. Like, remember, we're just using the same name. We're not doing anything to it. Whatever is in here from the previous page, we're just bringing it here.
Yes.
And if I understood it correctly, you said it's because this is a variable name, so it should be fine, correct? It's not a element from the page, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, then you're correct. Because like I said, if it's a variable, you're in the same class, yes, you're free to call that anytime. Okay, that's your ID, and we are all good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and run this, and we gotta do this for same for every other ones, because this is a separate element on a separate page, and it will not work. So it's a good test to do. Okay, so that's worked. So we only did for the first name here. We got to do last name, email, and phone number, and zip code. Okay, so it's going to be a lot of copy paste here, guys, like, to be honest. should we do that? I mean, I'll leave it up to you guys. It's 210. It's a pretty good test, right? See how big the test case became, right? And we're not even finished with the end-to-end process. Okay, we're just like on the first field. Imagine we went to the second test case and we go all the way to the end-to-end. So here is the favor that I'm going to do to all of you guys. I'm not going to give more information and confuse you guys because I was planning to do GitHub today, and also maybe like do a few more test cases. But I think for a lot of people, this is this, if we stop here, it'll give them chance to catch up and be able to be good in the next week. So the next week we're going to be covering is how to take this code and push it in GitHub, and how to write more sophisticated test cases. Like we still haven't dealt with. Okay, so let's keep it track, right? We pretty much did ID, name and ID is the same way. So I'm not even gonna, let's just say we did it, because name, all you gotta do is change this to name. That's it, and then use the name itself. Class name we used, link text we used, CSS selector we used, XPath we used. Personal link text is the same way as regular link text. So all we have to do is for the link, you just remove half of it, right? Or, you just remove one thing. So it becomes partial. So then you can use this. We use clicked, we use send keys, and we use get text. Very good, right? Today's, at least it meets today's agenda. So next class, we're gonna get more comfortable with this. I'm gonna give you guys some homework right now to make sure that, also like for Windows people, stay back. We're gonna see what's the problem. If you are Mac, you don't have to stay, right? So just think about okay, so let's look at the homework real quick, okay? What I want people to do is, this is the website. And when I paste it here, when you look at the video again, you're gonna be able to see these links on the video itself. So it will help you. I'm gonna go ahead and paste it here somewhere. Where is it, my texting? Chat. Okay, so this link, you guys gonna get it. What I need you guys to do is that for the next class, do an end-to-end flow, the entire end-to-end. Anytime you land on it, and do the proper testing too. End-to-end is gonna be like a very big test case. I want you to do few coding things that I would like you to do is that write a comment before you go in to do something with one element. So you should have one comment per element that you're dealing with. Every time you land on a new page, I want you to check for something, not only the title of the page. Don't just do title of the page all the time, okay? You see the get title, I want you to check for something else, right? Something that you already didn't do, right? So maybe the first page you did get title, and then the remaining page you should do is other things, right? Any other text you want to check that will at least show that you are on the right page. So you make the choice, okay? And then I want you to basically, by clicking onto the next page, going and filling out information, all the way when you get to the last submit page, I want you to give me a check, which is a assertion that will show that you got the 6 months, monthly payments, or at least whatever confirmation at the end. At the end, you want to make sure that you are getting the proper confirmation, okay? So that way it shows that you finished from the very beginning to end. It was done. That is going to be yours for the entire week. I want to see that on my next class. It's going to be Sunday. So I want to see that you guys did it, right? No exception here, because how am I going to move forward to the advance, right? We haven't done inheritance. We haven't done how to deal with multiple links and be able to do something more crazy, right? More cooler. How to use more Java, right? To make our test more, let's say, flexible. A lot of things we have that we have to do. And this is a light framework. We still haven't gone to a more advanced framework, which could be BDD, which could be making this framework even more sophisticated. So what I need you guys to do is going to be, now every time we do a class is going to feel like you are moving at the light speed. And for those who doesn't have 2 hours per day, or even let's say, I mean, I prefer like 3 to 4 hours per day, but for those who doesn't have 2 hours per day to sit down and their internet is broken, sooner or later you're gonna be so behind. You're gonna be so behind that I cannot save you, Shantavai cannot save you, right? We can be sitting with you one-on-one and we're not gonna be able to save you because we're gonna try to give you all the information at once. And you're gonna say, what? This is just too much for me. So do yourself a favor and not to kind of get into that situation where you feel like it's too much, right? You know, take little bite at a time, small bite at a time, and you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. But if you think like, okay, you know what, on Saturday night, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna conquer the world. It never happens, right? Saturday night, you're gonna see like, oh, 10 minutes you spent, and after that, you're gonna say, oh, you know what, forget it. I'm gonna tell them something. I'm gonna tell them I have something going on. I can't work on it, right? In the meantime, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and start recording.